Hey, all you sinners and saints, it's TJ, the MotorSage here. Kind of flying blind here today. We're at some of our kin's house, one of our children, and we're sitting in place. You see, I'm considered a senior, being in my late 70s. They don't want me out walking around and moving around amongst the population because I could get very ill enough that could cause my death because of this virus that's sweeping the world, basically. And so I've been checking up on various campgrounds, and a whole lot of state parks are being closed and various things. So I'm pretty much thinking I'm going to hold in place right here and weather the storm, so to speak. It's kind of a very helpless feeling, being blind, so to speak, about the future and how things are going to unfold. I'd like to talk to you a bit about that because our lesson for this upcoming Sunday is about Jesus healing a blind man. So listen up, and maybe we can all learn something out of this.
The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of my enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil. My cup overflows. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forevermore.
I come to you in the name of Jesus Christ, our crucified and risen Lord, and I bring you his love. Amen. So it said, sometimes when you walk around the land and we just don't know exactly what we ought to be doing, we kind of walk around in the dark, sort of blind. And that brings us to the lesson this week for this upcoming Sunday. The gospel lesson is where Jesus comes out of the temple after confronting some of the powers that be there. And he encounters a blind man in the streets along the way. And he stops and considers the man is blind and is to be healed. And this is something that was planned, that God had laid out a long time before Jesus was born into this world. And he Did a very odd thing. He bent down, got some dirt from the ground, and he spit in it and made some mud and coated the man's eyes. Then he told the man to go and wash in the pool of Siloam. The pool was simply a body of water there in the Jerusalem area, and it was said, the legend was that if you get in the water first, there was a better chance or a good chance you'd be healed of whatever ailments you had. So the man went and he washed his eyes, and he was healed. And then, the real trouble started. You see, then he had to explain to the authorities how it was he got healed on the Sabbath. You see, the Jews didn't believe on doing any work on the Sabbath. But there's a lesson in there. We go through life and with kind of mud in our eyes. We just can't see the future. We can't see tonight. We can't see tomorrow. We kind of have to sit in place sometimes and let God be God, and we do what we can, because we know God has all authorities. And one of the ancient Psalms, I believe it is Psalm 19, talks about God being victorious over all things and watches over us. But at the same time, Jesus, when he was in the garden, in the wilderness, confronted by Satan, he told Satan that you should not tempt the Lord your God. In other words, you ought to do what you can to preserve yourself. So in this time when we have this medical emergency, this coronavirus, as they call it, it's time for us to sit in place, do as we're told according to the medical authorities, and keep praying to God that things are going to turn out all right. We have come to the place where, the statistics are showing that people are getting ill, and more people are getting ill than they thought in some age brackets. I heard this morning on the television that these young folks that are going down into the spring break celebrations down on Florida and the southern coast of Alabama and so forth, some of them are falling ill, and seriously ill, to where they're involved so much that they need intensive care. Well, the world is like that. We can't count on putting one step in front of the other sometimes without knowing that God is in control. He said the fact that he is in control was manifest, that Jesus who was in that temple so long ago, that Jesus who had tussled in thought and spirit with those that thought they were in control at the Jerusalem temple. Well, he was and is the Son of God, and he was there on a mission. He was there to heal the sick. He was there to make the blind see, to make the deaf hear, and we need to pay strict attention to what he said. He told the man, after he put the mud in his eye and spit, he told the man, go wash in the pool of Siloam. Well, to me, the fact that he told that man to go to the water and be healed is a sign of just exactly what we need to remember. We who are baptized have already been healed. So no matter what happens in the future days, we're covered. And those who have not had the mud of this world washed off their flesh should be aware that they're christened by God to go and be baptized. They're set aside, they're set apart, and they're going to be preserved on into the future no matter what this world throws at them. Thanks be to God. Amen.
The neighbors and those who had seen him before as a beggar said, is not this the man who used to sit and beg? Some said, it is he. Others said, no, but he is like him. He said, I am the man. They said to him, then how were your eyes opened? He answered, the man called Jesus made clay and anointed my eyes and said to me, go to Siloam and wash. So I went and washed and received my sight. They said to him, where is he now? He said, I do not know. They brought to the Pharisees the man who had formerly been blind. Now it was a Sabbath day when Jesus made the clay and opened his eyes. The Pharisees again asked him how he had received his sight, and he said to them, he put clay in my eyes, and I washed, and I saw. Some of the Pharisees said, this man is not from God, for he does not keep the Sabbath. But others said, how can a man who is a sinner do such signs? There was a division amongst them, so they again said to the blind man, what do you say about him since he has opened your eyes? He said, he is a prophet. The Jews did not believe that he had been blind and had received his sight until they called the parents of the man who had received his sight and asked them, is this your son who you say was born blind? How then does he now see? His parents answered, we know that this is our son and that he was born blind, but how he now sees we do not know, nor do we know who opened his eyes. Ask him, he is of age, he will speak for himself. His parents said this because they feared the Jews, for the Jews had already agreed that if anyone should confess him to be the Christ, he was to be put out of the synagogue. Therefore his parents said, he is of the age, ask him. So for the second time they called the man who had been born blind and said to him, give God the praise, we know that this man is a sinner. He answered, whether he is a sinner, I do not know. One thing I know, that though I was blind, now I see. They said to him, what did he do to you? How did he open your eyes? He answered them, I have told you already, and you would not listen. Why do you want to hear it again? Do you want to become his disciples? And they reviled him, saying, you are his disciples, but we are disciples of Moses, and know that God has spoken to Moses. But as for this man, we do not know where he comes from. The man answered, why, this is a marvel. You do not know where he comes from, and yet he opened my eyes? We know that God does not listen to sinners, but if anyone is a worshiper of God and does his will, God listens to him. Now, never since the world began has it been heard that anyone opened the eyes of a man born blind. If this man were not from God, he could do nothing. They answered him, you were born in utter sin, and you would teach us? And they cast him out. Jesus heard that they had cast him out, and having found him again, he said, do you believe in the Son of Man? He answered, and who was he, sir, that I may believe in him? Jesus said to him, you have seen him, and it is he who speaks to you. He said, Lord, I believe, and he worshipped him. Jesus said, for judgment I came into this world, that those who do not see may see, and that those who see may become blind. Now some of the Pharisees near him heard this, and they said to him, are we also blind? Jesus said to them, if you are blind, you would have no guilt, but now that you say, we see, your guilt remains. The Holy Gospel according to St. John.